She left home, branded a disappointment. 5 years later, she returned in uniform. With the power to dismantle everything her family built, Juliet Dayne pulled her rented SUV into the narrow driveway that had once fit her aging sedan with ease. The house hadn't changed, and neither had the weight it held inside. 5 years since she'd last stood on this porch. 5 years since she'd walked out of this house with her head high and her heart quietly broken. She paused, glancing at the porch light casting its weak golden glow on the chipped welcome mat and overgrown hedges. Her palms were dry, military calm, but her stomach still churned the way it did before every mission. She rang the bell. Juliet, her mother called from the kitchen. It's open. Of course it was. The house smelled like old perfume and pot roast, walls still lined with Logan's framed milestones. Graduation, wedding, his sons. Her photos sexually in uniform were conspicuously absent. The portrait from her commissioning ceremony had never made it to the mantel. Dinner's almost ready, her mother said, barely glancing up. Logan and Marielle are on their way. Logan just got another promotion. You'll have to congratulate him. He's leading the entire systems integration team now. Juliet forced a smile. That's great, Mom. The same dining table, the same seating arrangement. Logan at the head, Dad on his right. Juliet somewhere invisible. Logan and Marielle arrived precisely on time, bringing wine too expensive to enjoy but perfect for presentation. Logan hugged her without looking directly at her. Hey Jules, he said. Long time. 5 years, she replied. He blinked, unsure if she was joking. She wasn't. Dinner was a play: roast beef, mashed potatoes, and side salad. Logan's confident voice narrated corporate triumphs, performance bonuses, and his new leadership in the military division. Her father's pride was palpable. And you? Her mother asked. Still traveling with the army? More or less, Juliet replied. Still a captain? Her father added. Something like that. She didn't elaborate. Her uniform folded in her suitcase upstairs held the Silver Eagle, insignia of a full colonel. That night in her childhood bedroom, she stared at the walls that only honored a version of herself they once approved of. Basketball trophies, honor roll, pre-enlistment college letters. Everything before she chose the ROC scholarship and military service over business school. Everything before she became their disappointment. The next morning, she pulled into Westbridge Technologies, 15 minutes early, full dress uniform, parking spot reserved, military liaison, DoD authorized. She walked past the front desk like she owned the ground she walked on. In a way, she did. She had spent months preparing for this moment. She saw Logan first relaxed, scrolling his tableton till he noticed her. Juliet, what is that? He stammered, eyes locked on the uniform. Good morning, Mr. Dayne. I'm here for the project review. Before he could respond, Lorraine Hart, CEO of Westbridge, appeared. Colonel Dayne. Lorraine smiled, extending her hand. Didn't expect you in person? Everyone, this is our Pentagon liaison for Project Sentinel. The silence that followed was everything Juliet had trained for. They entered the conference room. Juliet's name sat proudly at the head of the table. She delivered her presentation with calm precision. When it was Logan's turn, he stumbled, his voice faltering under the weight of her questions. Mr. Dayne, she said coolly, please revise the protocol draft by Thursday. Our benchmarks are non-negotiable. He nodded, yes ma'am. The room moved on. Juliet owned it. After the meeting, her father called her into his office. Her mother was already there. Logan, leaning against the window. You've been a colonel for how long? Her father asked. 6 months. And you didn't tell us. I did. Emails, voicemails, and invitations. No one responded. Her mother's voice softened. We didn't know what it meant, Colonel. We thought you were stuck. You never asked, Juliet said simply. You were commanding today, Logan admitted. I was doing my job. Her father stood slowly. You've built something we didn't understand. That's on us. Then, extending his hand, Colonel Dayne, I underestimated you. She shook it. I accept. 6 months later, Juliet hosted dinner in her Washington apartment. Her father brought a framed article featuring her photo in uniform. Her mother brought an apple pie. Logan brought wine and something that felt like respect. That night, her father toasted, to Colonel Juliet Dayne, who proved your worth isn't in following someone else's path, but in walking your own. She raised her glass, not for their recognition, but because she no longer needed it. Technology's threats that put not just her career, but national security at risk. The real story is only beginning. Juliet Dayne woke before sunrise. Old habit. Military conditioning. But this morning held more than the call of routine. She dressed in crisp civilian attire, still professional, still authoritative. The Pentagon liaison would return to Westbridge Technologies not just for observation, but investigation. She had received a secure briefing the night before. A minor but odd anomaly had flagged her attention. A series of unexplained latency fluctuations in Project Sentinel's Phase 2 simulations. On the surface, the issue seemed technical. Deeper analysis suggested the possibility of internal tampering. She didn't want it to be Logan, but Juliet hadn't earned her rank by ignoring inconvenient possibilities. She was a soldier, a systems expert, and now, potentially, a silent sentinel in a corporate battlefield. As she entered Westbridge's lobby, employees nodded with brisk newfound respect. Lorraine Hart met her outside the conference suite. "Colonel," she said, "back so soon." Juliet nodded. "I need to review the back-end infrastructure for Sentinel." Quietly, Loren's eyes sharpened. "Do I want to know why?" "I hope not." They moved together to a private control center beneath the executive wing. Only top-level access is allowed. Clearance. Juliet presented her credentials. Bypassing firewalls and permissions in seconds. Westbridge's chief technology officer, a nervous man named Alvin Rourke, greeted her with visible tension. "Colonel Dayne, how can I help? I need a mirror backup of Sentinel's server logs from the last 30 days. No one else can be notified." Alvin paled slightly. "Why, yes, ma'am." Within minutes, the data streamed into her secured terminal. She parsed the code with speed and precision. Strings of timestamps, packet routes, and latency markers. Then she saw it, a pattern too perfect to be accidental. A custom-built echo signal buried deep replicating system pings to conceal routes. Someone inside was masking outbound transfers. Juliet's heart slowed. Someone was leaking military protocol, and someone inside this building had built the mask. She leaned back in the chair, hands folded. Westbridge was compromised. The breach wasn't external. The enemy was in the room. By 1400 hours, Juliet had isolated the signature of the malicious code. She traced its route back through access logs, and it led to a systems engineer with level 3 clearance. Evan Roca. Young. Brilliant. Recruited straight from a cyber defense competition. Clean record. No political flags. But someone had piggybacked onto his credentials. Either Evan was the mole, or someone wanted it to look like he was. She needed eyes on him. "Colonel Dayne." Lorraine entered again, this time with a confidential folder in hand. "This was delivered by DHS liaison Charles Remy. Said it's related to your quiet inquiry." Juliet took the file, reading quickly, eyes narrowed. Operation Nightglass. 3 months ago, a Pentagon data leak had triggered a compartmentalized investigation. No agencies had been informed, except the DHS Cyber Division. They'd narrowed the breach origin to a firm working under an advanced contract alias, Project Sentinel. Juliet exhaled slowly. Westbridge wasn't just compromised, it was the epicenter. That evening, Juliet didn't return to her apartment. Instead, she checked into a secure military guest suite in Arlington. High clearance comes only. She needed space to think. Her laptop buzzed. A message, untraceable, encrypted. "You're looking in the wrong place. Evan isn't your problem." Juliet stared. No signature. No IP trail. Then, another message. "Some ghosts never die. Some of them work at Westbridge." Her mind raced. There was only one person who had ever used that phrasing. Not in writing. In person. Years ago, Afghanistan, during a combined cyberfield operation, Major Elias Monroe. He'd been her mentor, her closest ally, her ... almost something more. And he'd died in a transport ambush in Kabul, hadn't he? She opened her encrypted archive. Photos, logs, death certificates. But something stuck out. Monroe's final comes report was never recovered, and the classified transport log. Redacted more heavily than most. Was he alive? And if so, was he inside Westbridge? The next morning, Juliet called in a classified favor. A secure channel linked her to DIA archives. She requested a full scan of Project Nightglass connections, civilian aliases, offshore funding, foreign fingerprints. In less than an hour, a ping. The custom code embedded in Sentinel's prototype had an identical match to an encryption key used in an old cyber espionage op, codenamed Spectre's Tongue. The lead engineer on that op had disappeared after its closure. Alias Eric Dayne. Juliet froze. Dayne. She pulled up the original file. There it was. Alias confirmed. Former identity, Elias Monroe, alive, hidden, working under a false name. And now embedded in Westbridge. Was it revenge? Was it something more? Was this about her? The memory rushed back like a punch. The campfire conversation. The night Monroe told her, "If this world ever turns upside down, find the truth, even if it looks like a lie." She hadn't known what he meant. Now, she did. And this time she wouldn't walk away. Back at Westbridge, Juliet changed tactics. She requested a discreet meeting with Logan. He arrived, clearly wary but curious. "I need your help," she said. "Help with what?" "Tracking a false identity embedded in the code chain. Someone is working from inside. Someone who knows our infrastructure better than anyone." Logan stiffened. "You think it's me?" "No. But you're the only one who can get me inside the engineering lab, unnoticed." He hesitated. "Please, Logan, if you trust me even a little, this is bigger than both of us." Logan nodded. "Follow me." They entered the engineering floor after hours. Logan swiped Juliet into a restricted terminal. She sat down, fingers flying across the keyboard. One by one, the firewalls fell, and then a security cam flickered. An unfamiliar man in a maintenance suit paused in front of Juliet's old data terminal. He looked up, straight into the camera, older, scarred, but unmistakable. Elias Monroe. He was alive. Juliet stood. "Logan, get me access to that sublevel. Now." He moved quickly. The door unlocked. Juliet descended into the basement. Empty, no sign of Monroe. Just the faint glow of a terminal still warm. She sat. A single line of code blinked back at her. "Some truths are better unearthed slowly. You're not done yet." She leaned back in the chair. Monroe was here, watching, playing a long game. But why? She didn't have the answer yet. But she had a question. And that was enough to keep going. The boardroom was sterile, bright, and humming with tension. Juliet sat at the head of the table again, this time with federal agents positioned just outside the glass walls. She wore her uniform, every ribbon and bar placed with intention. Across from her sat Logan, quiet but supportive. Lorraine Hart, on her right. And her father, David Dayne, flanked by two legal advisors, was stone-faced. Juliet opened her file. "This session is now in formal review status. Colonel Juliet Dayne, Department of Defense Liaison for Project Sentinel, presiding." Her father spoke before she continued. "Juliet," she held up a hand. "You'll have a chance to respond. For now, I'm presenting findings." Her voice never cracked. Not once. She projected the encrypted logs Monroe had helped retrieve, access entries, unauthorized patch cycles, command overrides hidden within the Sentinel code, each bearing traceable metadata, leading directly to the Project Rook architecture. Then, she dropped the final slide. A terminal transcript of David Dayne authorizing the test run for Rook. Dated 2 months prior. No Pentagon approval. No ethical oversight. Logan looked stunned. "You used my project to run an AI weapon test," he whispered. David looked at his son, then Juliet. "It wasn't a weapon, it was an opportunity. Our systems are lagging. We need predictive action,